Welcome to B2B Marketing and More with your host, Pam Didner. As a leading marketing and sales enablement strategist, keynote speaker, and author, Pam created this podcast to share professional experience and insights and help you to be a great B2B marketer. If you enjoy the podcast, please share it with your colleagues and leave a review on iTunes. Now let's get started.
A big hello from Portland, Oregon. I hope everybody's doing very well. For today, what I really want to talk about is how to think strategically. You know, strategic is such a big word. Whenever I think the term strategic thinking, I picture a politician or policymaker in a think tank, all right, trying to craft big initiatives to tackle issues like climate change, employment, boosting the economy, etc. For the sake of today's podcast, I want to narrow the definition of strategic thinking a little bit, just a little bit, in the context of B2B marketing. So let's keep it concrete. How can you carry productive and interactive conversations with your CEO, VP of marketing, and other senior staff? And I want to discuss the ability to think strategically in a very concrete way so that you can implement right away. So here are 3 suggestions. Number 1, think from the perspective of why and what, not how. So let me explain that. And this is derived from my personal experience. My background was finance, accounting, and operations. When I was told to do certain things, my first intuition has always been to think about implementation. How can I make this happen for my management, customers, and internal stakeholders? When I try to carry conversations with senior managers, most of the time, they are more interested in knowing why I go with a specific recommendation, not how right away, all right? And what analysis and factors did I use to reach that conclusion? What are some of the pros and cons? Most importantly, what are the benefits to the company and the customers? Once they understand why and what, then I would go on and explain how. That is one thing I learned by having, multiple conversations with them. That's how they think. And help them to understand why and what first. But sometimes some senior staff will start asking how question and dive into the detail very quickly. So it's very important if you want to take control of the conversation, especially in a big meeting, it's important to elevate them and help them to think the why and the what first before you answer how questions. Does that make sense? So that's the first suggestions I share with everybody. Number 2. Communicate in the ways that senior managers can understand. I've seen many marketers sharing social media metrics with senior staff. Frankly, they don't really care about likes, views, or shares. What they really care about is how social media helps the company increase revenue, reduce cost, mitigate risks, or improve customer service. So can you tie your social media conversations with any of that in the context of, say, improving customer service? You need to understand how senior managers measure themselves and share the information in a way they understand or care about. Frankly, this is a challenge for many marketers, including me when I was in the corporate world. So one thing I did was make sure that I aligned my marketing plan and strategy with that of sales and the customer service. Much of the content I created, frankly, are actually for marketing, outreach, but I make sure I selected some of the content which can be used by sales. I also make sure that salespeople know what content I created and how they could use them. I also suggested some content to our customer service team as a part of their training, especially the product-specific information. So rather than just reporting only on the viewership of the content on the website, I also call out how content, especially the list of the content, was used for sales and customers. When I show management the content used by sales and customer service, they show a little excitement and they wanted to learn a little bit more, and say, oh, so that content being used by sales team? Well, how do they use it? What is the title? In what situation? Can you tell me a little bit more? Then it became actually a very good interactive conversation. Number 3, help senior managers connect the dots. So I don't know about you, but for me, Even now, as independent consultants working with CEOs, VP of marketing, I have come to realize that many senior managers are in their 40s, 50s, and in some cases in their early 60s. They didn't grow up with digital like millennials. Many still use mobile phones and tablets like novice consumers. They don't know the ins and outs of digital marketing or the amount of digital integration and usage of various marketing technologies and tools you need to use to tie everything together. It's a lot of work, right? They don't know how much back-end work it takes to make sure a website scales dynamically or the photos show up properly on different devices and not improperly cropped. They don't know how much work you need to use to create seamless nurturing campaigns to increase conversion rate. You have to do a lot of A/B testings and try different copywriting, try different images, etc. They don't know what they don't know. Therefore, you need to use analogy that they can understand. So a typical example I use with senior manager, especially when they ask me a question, well, you know what, how does it take so long for you to find a high quality MQL, marketing qualified lead? And I always said, okay, all right, to answer that question, I want to ask everybody a couple questions. First of all, how long does it take for sales to close a deal? Oh, well, 12 to 18 months. How many touch points does sales need to engage with prospect during that time? Well, about 30 of them. Okay. Did sales need to strategize and then prepare for each touch point? Oh, yeah, yes. Was it a lot of work to do that? Oh, yeah, yes. Okay, everyone. Now try to imagine doing exactly the same thing, all right? But on the upfront of finding a high quality MQL digitally in a scalable and semi-automatic way. So everything that sales need to do, all the question I just asked, that also apply to all the marketing need to do to find a high quality MQL. Once I said that, they kind of like, okay, we get it, Pam. We get it. It's a lot of work. Yes, it is. So use analogy they understand and help them connect the dots. So I hope this helps. I hope that these suggestions give you some ideas to learn how to think strategically in the context of your job, in the context of B2B marketing, in the context of moving up for your career development. So I hope that I provide concrete examples and suggestions that you can use after this episode. Again, if you like the content, please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes. If you prefer YouTube, you know what? I publish one video a week starting in October. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you prefer, but please subscribe. For the next episode, I want to share with you some ideas how you can cultivate the strategic thinking. Okay? So stay tuned. Have a great day.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your colleagues and leave a review on iTunes.